Unpeeled, courtesy of 3dprint.com. So we've got a number of news items for you today, and the first time is a notable research paper that is looking at real-time defect recognition using machine learning in powder bed fusion or metal powder bed fusion builds. So this is a problem we come up with. Well, we have defects in builds due to smoke, due to packing problems, due to agglomeration of powder, and due to reasons we don't really understand. And we can either detect what's happening, or we can try to predict what's happening, or we can wait until we know that something is wrong, or worse still, we can know until we can find out after the fact with a CT scan. And yeah, that's all very, very, very not optimal. So there's a team that's looking at doing this in looking at one particular defect using machine learning, and they're trying to predict 100% of the time that this particular defect will occur. That is done by Tao Sun with the University of Virginia, Anthony Rowlett, Carnegie Mellon, Lian Chen, the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and a bunch of other people. There's a paper published in Science. It's called Machine Learning and Aided Real-Time Detection of Keyhole Pore Generation in Laser Powder Bed Fusion. So at one point, keyholes are kind of deep recessions in parts. They can become enclosed, and they can cause porosity in the part, or they can cause actual major part failures, or even maybe perhaps build failures in the part. They cause voids, cracks, just altogether brittleness. And what they've done is they use a synchrotron. They've used near infrared imaging and machine learning together in order to be able to predict this 100% of the time. This could increase the failure detection, mitigate failure detection, or even come up with better packing strategies or better uh, uh, scan strategies, or different types of laser absorption in powders, or better powders generally, to mitigate these keyholes. This is a problem, and it's a recurring problem. This is great work that these guys have solved this. Um, the next thing is, well, it's about the Kokoni Sota. So the Kokoni Sota is a 3D printer, an announced 3D printer, which has a print speed reportedly of 600 millimeters per second, an acceleration of 21,000 millimeters per second squared, which I still don't understand why they're using this measure and other people aren't, but okay. It's got a slick looking app, it's got Wi Fi control, it's got one click printing via the app. It's also got like kind of models that they help share with you, and that they generate models to print. It's got a linear rail, balls through construction. The company is like kind of has a closed ecosystem, low cost printer, and now they're releasing this kind of more advanced system on the back of it. They sell PLA and cartridges for this 200 grams for $20 for the low cost system. It's not really mentioned yet if they're going to do this for this system. For me, if they're going to do sell PLA and cartridges, and they're trying to do this for this Kokoni Sota system, it's never going to work. We've seen this again and again. People that do cartridge price PLA, especially here, where it's like essentially 3 to 4 times more expensive than the regular PLA, that's never going to work. So that to me is, if they're going to try to do the cartridge PLA for a more professional system, forget it, right? I can tell you. But all the other features that they have, if they don't do this, if they have an open PLA kind of approach, well, they've got closed loop monitoring. They say they have brought closed loop to desktop 3D printers. They use AI, and they use the camera and optical radar monitoring sensor to monitor for error detection, which they can do in real time. They also have mitigation of that error detection, and they have spaghetti detection of printed beds. They've got a 90-degree Celsius heated hotbed heating temperature, and a 260-degree metal hot end. Now, then they're claimed to have 7-color synchronous printing. Elsewhere, it's described as a 6-color kind of mixing printing technology. Um, and it's not really explained how they do this, but that's interesting. They also have reduced vibration. Uh, and on the whole, what we're seeing is, like, in a world where the bamboo printer has caused so much excitement, we're getting other people that are promising as much as bamboo is promising. It's no longer, you can't just say anymore like, hey, I have an open source 3D printer. It's kind of like a Prusa i3, and now $240. You need to promise more. And then in a bamboo world, this kind of Kokoni Sota kind of thing makes sense. Um, you know, on the whole, there's a lot to like here, as in there's less vibration, there's more monitoring, it's more of a fire and forget printer, which I think a lot of people need and could make the market a lot bigger. Um, The company itself, and then there's a lot of stuff here that's clearly like kind of like venturing into overclaim territory. I mean, the company is 80 to staff. It's shipped 10,000 of its printers, which is previous models EC1, which is $249 kind of compact, kind of simple printer. Um, and it's unclear if they would have the wherewithal to deliver on these promises. They also promise, for example, that in the app you can shoot a movie using your phone, and then that will be reconstructed into a 3D model that's printable. Now, that alone would be a huge thing for the 3D printing industry, and a number of startups have failed to deliver on that core promise in and of itself. So, the fact that they're promising so much, and including the 21,000 movement speed and the 6/7 filament 3D printing and the lower noise, that makes me intensely skeptical about this from the get go. Now, of course, if this works, I'd love to test this out. I'd love to just say, hey, this works. And I can just plug and play 3D printer. It does everything that says on the tin, because this would be quite amazing. Now, the other thing, the reason why I think it's definitely, even though I'm intensely skeptical of this, I want to talk about this thing, and people will talk about this, is that it's an upside down printer. So they've done something which I know that Kralin, so it's KRALYN 3D, has demonstrated on YouTube and elsewhere, and other people have been kind of experimenting with. That's just upside down 3D printing. Now, people have experimented with this, as saying, can my printer 3D print upside down? Which, yes, they can. And people have tried to make optimal upside down 3D printers. All right. But nobody's really done a really large commercial launch of like an upside down 3D printer system. Now, the advantages the company states here are kind of compelling, right? We've got all of our moving parts, all of the heavy stuff, the electronics stuff is in the base, which makes it really, really solid base, which means that we have a really low center of gravity, and we could actually have a really optimized kind of core, right? And the company says that lower center of gravity gives them really high quality prints. And the company says that it enables them to print faster as well, which I'm not sure of. But I think generally what we have is we have an enclosed upside down printer. Now, that in and of itself is quite innovative. I like that a lot. They also say, by the way, they can do a benchy in 10 minutes, which would be really, really nice. Um, and just generally, I don't know. I would love for this to be real. I think it would be really good for the market, to this thing to be affordable and real, and for this thing together with the bamboo to really usher in a new era of kind of more tech driven 3D printers. But I'm intensely and almost completely skeptical at this point, just because of the number of claims that this one printer is making. This one kind of yes, one kind of like one launch. CES, they're launching at CES, or they launched at CES. By This is the founder, by the way, and this is the team. One launch by these guys is now so anticipated. There's so many claims in here. There's so many kind of things wrapped up in there that it's either going to be like a complete home run. It's going to be amazing, or this is going to be like almost like vaporware, kind of like how we used to have 3D printers that kind of like just blew up. And we don't know yet. It's in the middle. So this is very exciting. If you have one of these, please tell me. If you manage to get your hands on it, you get it working, please let me know, because I'm intensely curious about this thing, and I'm intensely curious if it works as well as advertised, and if it does all of the things that people want it to do. But count me at this point super skeptical, to the point of like I wouldn't plunk my money down for this. I'd wait for someone else to do it. That's my thing. So anyway, my name's Joris Peels. This is another 3D printing news Unpeeled. Thanks to 3dprint.com, and I hope you have a wonderful day.